Call to order the CalSTRS Board regular meeting. Jennifer, could you please call the roll?
For the State Treasurer, Mr. Boykin. Here. For the Director of Finance, Ms. Ortega. Ms. Hendricks.
Here.
Mr. Rosensteel.
Here.
For the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Zeiger. Here. Mr. Unterman.
Here.
And for the State Controller, Mr. McGuire. Here. Chairperson Dillon, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I just need to read into the record, or at least explain, we have two members that are not with us here today. Joy Higa is on a long-standing family vacation before her appointment, and we said, you have plans, you're okay, so go ahead and go. So we will miss her this week. And then also Harry Keeley has had a death in his family. His father passed away, and so he is also excused from the meeting because he's with family. And I can't believe I got through that without getting too leaky. So we'll miss Harry too and wish him well. Alrighty, we are going to go into closed session. Oh, probably need approval of the work plan and the agenda before we go to closed session. Entertain a motion to do so.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right, we've approved our agenda. Now we will go into closed session. We will be in closed session possibly all the way up to 11 o'clock, where compensation is supposed to meet. And we would like to have Jack, Chris, Cassandra, Brian, Jennifer, Ian, and our two consultants join us in the caucus room next door. And the rest of you, take a break. So, thank you very much. No actions were taken in closed session. The board will recess again. Seeing that we have a larger crowd in here than we did this morning, I'd just like to repeat that we do have a couple board members that are not able to be with us today. Joy Higa had an extensive vacation plan before she got appointed to the board. It was a commitment that she made a long time ago with her family, and she is looking forward to joining us again in June, and we're hoping she's having a very good time. And Harry's not able to be with us today. Not as much fun as Joy's. Harry's father passed away unexpectedly yesterday morning, and so he is in Florida with his family, which is where he should be at this time. So thank you very much. And with that, Jack, I think we'll go ahead and begin. There is new board member education in front of you.
Round 3, I think, right? Third.
So,
Yeah, there was just a last minute change there to update, nothing
so I think we
significant.
have everything up to date at your seats then, and we will move right into the action item number 3, please.
The election. Are you ready?
Ready?
Okay. Your board policy manual provides for an annual election of your two officers, your chairperson and your vice chairperson at this meeting. It's really the first item of the open session of your April meeting. And I get to run that election. And we take we do them in order, first the chair and then the vice chair. And there's no requirement for a second when a board member chooses to nominate someone. They're in the process of nomination. If there's more than one nomination, then we actually use a ballot for such a purpose. So I will start with the position of chair and take nominations for board chair for the coming fiscal year.
I'd like to nominate Harry.
We have a nomination from Mr. Rosensteel for Harry Keeley. Okay, thank you for that. All right, do we have any other nominations for chair? Seeing none, then I'll just put the motion up for vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Oppose. I'm sure Harry will be very appreciative when he gets back from this, and I know he was concerned not being able to be with you today. He expressed that to me, but obviously he is, as Dana said, where he needs to be. So we will then go to the position of vice chair and take nominations for vice chair. Mr. McGuire, is that
Yes.
your, okay?
On behalf of State Controller John Chung, I would like to nominate Sharon Hendricks for Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. We have a nomination of Sharon Hendricks for Vice Chair. Any other nominations? Go ahead. Once again, unneededly, but nevertheless, secondly, that's good. We have a second. Anything else? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Sharon. Absolutely. And of course, Dana, who is already in the Trustee Hall of Fame because you've been on the board 10 years, so you get, yeah, whoop whoop. But we will start a new Chairperson Hall of Fame too, because you've chaired this board for I believe it's 5 of the 10 years that you've been on the board. And it is not 5 easy years. I mean, they are not the same years as other years. I mean, clearly in the 100-year history of CalSTRS, I think obviously this Great Recession is one of the most traumatic experience the organization has experienced. And obviously we're all still standing. In fact, we're standing well enough that we hope to be solidifying our ground and moving on to another 100 years here at the end of this year. We hope. But I can't say enough for your, not just your positive leadership, but the word I would always add to you is your sensitive leadership in what you do. I mean, you absolutely not just make sure that the best ideas go forward, but you're thoughtful of the people that are involved in those ideas and very respectful of them as for their contributions. And I think that added piece, it makes a true leader great. And so you have been fabulous for the system. So we will miss you in this role. All right. Unfortunately, even though I'm going to ask
Thank you.
given the unusual circumstance with Harry not being with us today, and having Sharon really spend most of all of tomorrow chairing the investments committee, if not later today as well, I think it's appropriate for you to continue to chair today the board if you're comfortable doing that for us.
Once I can talk
Okay.
again.
All
Yes.
right. Well, while you're gathering yourself, why don't we?
Actually, Jack.
Yeah, and there's people at the microphone, so Sharon.
Well, I just want to say one thing before the folks at the mic. I'll speak on behalf of Harry and myself as the newly elected chair and vice chair, but these are tough shoes to fill, and I'm really grateful for the leadership and just the modeling that you have demonstrated in terms of respecting the board. And I know we have lots of opinions on this board and lots of contrasting opinions at times, and I feel like I've just been kind of watching how you navigate and handle that, and you do that with a lot of grace and a lot of just a lot of respect. But I think at the end of the day, it's always clear that you put our teachers first, and I think that's something that Harry and I obviously want to continue to carry on. But I really appreciate your friendship, but also just your leadership, and
Thank you.
so thanks.
Maggie?
Maggie Ellis, Chair of CTA Retirement Committee.
Ed Folia, from CTA NEA Retired.
I'd like to just say that having watched this board for a number of years now, it's really an honor to have CalSTRS chaired by leadership who's elected by the membership. And you've brought a level of transparency and effectiveness in running meetings that I don't think other organizations have. So thank you for that. And just know that I strive to be Dana Dillon someday in her running of meetings. Taking over as a chair of CTA Retirement, I stepped into some very hard shoes to fill. And so you're right here with me.
Thank you.
Sharon, we sat in the peanut gallery together. So I've gotten to watch you grow up, and I have full confidence in your ability to continue on the path that you have set. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you. Being a member of CalSTRS since 1957, we've been able to see a lot of excellent leadership throughout the years. But Dana is very special, and special to us because of her involvement, not only here in your leadership, but also as you bring that back home to the California Teachers Association. And we have been without representation, as I said, and I want to thank members of the board that have been talking to the governor about maybe having a retiree on the board. We have filled that vacuum with excellent leadership, and we appreciate that. We have been held with total respect and trying to get our viewpoint across, even though we don't have someone sitting up there. So it's with really pride that we say thank you to you, Dana, for the job that you've well done, that's been well done, and Jack has said it so well. And so we couldn't let this moment go by without saying thank you publicly to you, and thank you very much for
Thank
all
you
your
very
work.
much, Ed.
I can't add anything to what they've said. But I can't let the moment go by, as Ed said. The retired teachers are probably one of the most significant parts of this organization. I mean, we are the retired element of the California retired teachers system. And our voice is probably one of the weakest to be heard because of our small numbers and in many other respects. And what I need to say is that there are members of this board, and some of them are, for the most part, those who came up through the ranks of teaching, but others on the board who did not have taken up the cause of retired teachers. But even when that's all been said about all the marvelous people that are on this venue, and I've watched it for a few years also, your leadership has been outstanding. And I don't say that lightly. I'm critical of leaders. I'm an analytical kind of person, and I can say without any equivocation, you've done an amazing job of leading one of the most prestigious and sometimes difficult, not always, issues in front of people. We are proud to have even been associated with you in even the smallest way, and we are glad that you are still around for your influence to be felt. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Miss Loretta.
Loretta Toggenberger, UTLA retired. Dana, you know that I'm going to say,
Don't be telling any secrets
as a
now.
young woman, she knows exactly. I said, run for vice chair of the retirement committee. She ran. She says, I'm too young. I said, no, you're not. She ran, chair, made it. It was time to, run for the election of the CalSTRS board member. Dana ran, and look what she turned out to be. The chair for 5 years, 10 years. Dana, we salute you, we thank you. We know you have done more than an excellent job. But we also welcome Harry, and we welcome Sharon. We look forward to you working for us, the retiree. We really need you people, and we thank you, Dana, and we welcome the new ones.
Thank you, Loretta, very much. Oh, geez. For those of you who don't know, Loretta and I have been coming to CalSTRS for a very long time together. So.
Salvia Senor with Association of School Administrators. I too must stand up and acknowledge Dana for her leadership. One of the things that I struggle with is informing people or reminding people that school administrators are in fact CalSTRS members. They started off as teachers and then moved into the administrative ranks. And I want to say that Dana's leadership has helped AXA, the organization, be more engaged and participant. And so because of her leadership, we're glad to be here and be able to contribute to what this great organization does.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sal.
Dana.
Good afternoon, Steve Depew, just plain old retired. Dana, thank you.
It feels
There is no
good.
plain old ones too.
Dana, thank you very much for your leadership on the STRS board. And I was reading the overview, and it's our history. It's when you and I used to sit out in the audience,
Yep.
and it starts just a little bit after we were there. So again, thank you for all you've done over the years to promote a solid teacher's retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Sandy Keaton, UTLA Active. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We just want to say thank you, Dana, for everything that you've done for educators in the system.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you all so very, very much. Where's Rich? This is going to be a really hard act to follow, I think. So Rich Pinder and Jim Lacey are the persons here to present from the California Teacher Study. That also goes way back to some of us that have been in the room too, huh? You are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
I should have been better prepared for this, Jim, honest. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, my name is Rich Pinder, medicine, and I have Dr. Jim Lacey with me from the City of Hope. With all the cameras, I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking, but I'm on. I'm going to keep an eye on you. Thank you, first of all, for this opportunity to again come and talk to you about the California Teachers Study. Oops. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Do I need to re-say that, or we're good? Okay.
Do you have a mic above you also?
Okay. Well, on the way, as an aside, on the way up, this is Jim's first time to visit. I think I and others have presented to the board or to the benefits subcommittee, maybe, and I'm getting old, my memories, I want to say 4 times, it might be 5. And on the way out, and this is Jim's first, and on the way up, I said, one thing about this group, it's a real class act. And I think you guys just showed it. And Dana, I'm privileged to have worked with you over the years a little bit on the study too. So what I'm going to do is, again, give a little overview and a reminder. This will be a repeat for some of you, and it'll be new for some, of the history of the California Teachers Study, how you got us started back in 1994, and then end with a little of some current activities that we're working on at the core data center. And then Jim Lacey is going to talk specifically about a large, wonderful, huge new grant we have that are collecting biospecimens for genetic epidemiology purposes. So let's see. And again, some of you may remember this picture on the screen here. We were so impressed when we showed up the first time, and the history of it, going back to and Mary would help me with a couple names, but I know Michael Carter and Larry Martin were two of the executives that really helped bring this study to you. We are a bunch of epidemiologists. You'll see a long list of names. I'm the only non-scientist on the team, but primarily we are researchers who look at patterns of disease in populations. We do statistics. We talk about trends, and we had a one-time opportunity from Dr. John Young on the California Cancer Registry in 1994 from some California smoking tax dollars. We had a one-time chance to build a cohort study. And in a nutshell, from a layman's description, a cohort study is one where we create the study and we take it forward over time. We ask questions, we look at risk factors, we measure things in the beginning, and then we wait and talk about and analyze the data later. Many of you know that, but I just thought I'd put it out there. That's my layaway of it. Jim may have a more accurate way to portray it, but it's the kind of a study that only gets better over time. So we came, and with the help of your group, let me get a little bit, well, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. We are a multi-centered study. We are the City of Hope, UC Irvine, the California Prevention Institute of California, and USC. We are collaboratively put together the study. The two under the blue highlighted names, Dr. Leslie Bernstein, many of you know, she is the principal investigator of our main award, the main study. And then Jim is also underlined because he is the principal investigator on our new biospecimen project. We have an external advisory board that has 10 members, representatives from the scientific community. We have advocates and teachers. Try to keep this makeup has changed over years, and we've always wanted and enjoyed having someone from STRS on the board. Geraldine remains. At one point, Dana was coming, and so. But going forward, we hope that we always can welcome someone from STRS on our board. They meet annually. We have a meeting annually and talk about the focus of the project. So in 1995, we approached on our behalf. You sent a letter to about 330,000 of the women who were either active or recently active or out for child or for family leave, and included all the retired women. And we did not restrict it to California only. So we sent out about 330,000 invitation letters with the survey. It was a monster 16-page Scantron, fill in the bubbles survey. And the cohort was created with 133,479 responses, about 40%. The California breakdown, we've always had some members out of California. It's gotten a little larger over years. I think we were about 4 or 5% in the initial recruitment, but the membership in the California is geographically spread pretty representatively across the state. We also have a equal urban-rural representation, very similar to the entire population of the state, and I'm always kind of not amazed. Living in ugly downtown Los Angeles, or in Los Angeles, it's not ugly, sorry. Oh God, I'm being taped, right? 34%, we have a consideration where it's either small towns, rural areas, or small cities. That's a pretty large breakdown of that. So the status of the cohort, we have about 76% remain in the study. When we call active is somebody that we haven't identified as either being deceased or has refused to participate in the study. Very few refusals over the years. So we have about 76% of the original members. And of those 107,000, about 14% have moved out of state, and we still stay in touch with them with our surveys. And I put the we're getting older because I guess we are, and it's kind of interesting that now if you look, from age 80 and above constitutes about 20% of our active cohort. So our cohort is aging. We've sent to date 5 surveys. We are still in the process, the little subtext 2012, 2013, we are still collecting and accepting surveys for what we call our 5th survey. Yeah, I should make a shameless plug for women in the audience. If you still have it under the coffee table, we will take it. And on the right is, these numbers, there's a little more details behind them, but the challenge for our kind of research is keeping response high. When response goes down, it always goes down. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, but the higher we can keep it, the better. And that's right now we're in an effort to try to up the responses to the survey and also find out the status of people we haven't heard from. So over the years, we call them annual. There have been a few years that didn't quite make annual, but our commitment was to send a newsletter to update the members. We're in our volume 13 right now. It's just actually some of it's just being mailed. Part of it's being mailed. And we've included that old-fashioned snail mail, low-tech, tear off the postcard and send it in. And we've had about 9,700 updates of addresses over the years from these newsletters. And we like to give information to the members about new studies or results of existing studies. An interesting a very small focus sub-study now has to do with the topic of chemo brain and cognitive issues that happen after breast cancer, a common term you may have heard. But so we're working on a very exciting one. So with the City of Hope and And so that we use the newsletter to let folks know. So all of the newsletters, I didn't put it in a slide, all of the newsletters, publications, the surveys themselves, contact information, a couple wonderful YouTube videos that explain the study, one of which with Jim's is just marvelous, is all on our website, of course. So over the years, we now have over 100 published papers in peer-reviewed journals. And I put that bullet point there, 50 of those 100 have come after 2010. And I guess part of you could say, well, what were they doing all the early years? But papers are hard. Papers take a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of research and analysis. But the point of that is that cohorts gain in value over time. It's exponential. As long as keeping an older cohort going is much more, well, important, I won't use that word, but it's much more effective and it's much more producing of more data than newer ones. So 50 of them since 2010 indicates how much the study is being utilized lately. I should mention those 18 names that are on our steering committee of the researchers. We collaborate with others. We invite them to come and work with one of our steering committee members, but we have publications by other researchers from other institutions, as is common in this field. That was all of the full links to the articles can be found on the website. Some of which are kind of difficult to read for people like me, and we have summaries and extracts of the information also as well. The pivotal component of this study being a success was the design, the original design, that we ascertain diagnosis of cancer by linking with the California Cancer Registry. Many of you know cancer is a mandated reportable disease in California, as basically all states now. It wasn't when I started. But that means that we know with 99% accuracy which of our members have had which kind of cancer. And it's very critical to do the kind of analysis we do. We've had over 7,500 breast cancers incident, meaning since 1995, and we've had over 17,000 cancers of all kinds. And as rarer cancers increase in frequency, a study like ours can be the one-stop place to find the most you fill in the blank rare tumor out there because we have so many people. Again, a beauty of a large cohort study. Just real quickly, we have 2 large study grants. Our major grant awards, all from the National Cancer Institute. We have many smaller grants that researchers get on their own, but the 2 main ones, the first one, they call it an R01, that's a designation, an NIH designation. That will be ending in August 2015. And then the second one, Jim's study, the UM1, the biospecimen, which he's going to talk about in a minute, that ends a year later in August 2016. And the way funding is right now, and the challenge and the almost guarantee that you have to go in twice, you go in once and you get denied and then you go in a second time, now is the time for us to start working on our renewals, and we are. Funding is very, very challenging these days. It's a difficult environment, different than other years that I recall. 2 quick, and I hope I was going to set my timer up. 2 quick examples of some things that we're doing right now. The newsletter, as I mentioned, we send them out every year. And so we collect email addresses from the surveys that people have completed. So we wanted to see how many we could convince to go green, to have a PDF link sent to them to look and view and read the newsletter, which is always on the website, rather than send them one in the mail. So we had a nice little experiment to do that. This was a targeted mailing. The 64,000, if you look at the numbers, is a subset of our whole study. These are just the women who did Q5 already. They haven't seen our newsletter. So 65,000, 45,000 or 46,000 had emails. Of those 6,000, about 13% bounced immediately, so we know those emails are invalid. But we got about 27% through our Qualtrics survey site tool. We got about 27% responding, saying, "Yep, PDF's fine. Save the paper." we also gave them the option to ask for it both ways, and about 10% of those wanted paper as well, which I put that answer in at the very 11th hour. I was kind of surprised to see that many people would want it that way, but so it did save us a few dollars, 13% reduction in cost for paper and mailing for this newsletter. And an interesting, I put the final sentence with the little tilde, approximately 60% of the people that got emails, we didn't get a bounce, so we didn't know for sure the email was bad, but we didn't get a response. And my little pet theory is, of the population, maybe because of the age distribution, I'm not sure. I think a lot of people have emails that they don't use. And they'll give it on a survey on the cover, but they don't check it. I could be totally wrong. Maybe they just see the headline California Teachers Study and they are shrieking off. They think we're going to send another bubble in Scantron. But I found that as an interesting. So that's one project that we're just finishing now. And the last thing I'll end with is as I mentioned, we really want to come to grips with our response rate. Why is our response rate only 60% to the fifth survey? Some people would say they've moved, everyone's moved, and we all know that's not true. Some have moved, and we discover that. But one of the things we wrote in our last grant was that we would phone them up. Now, small. Our research dollars and your kind of dollars would be considered small. But when we think about calling 1,000 people or 10,000 people, that's an overwhelming task for a small research group. So long story short, we finally, just a month or two ago, I went to Texas and partnering with a company called Harlan Clark to do an outbound calling project, letting professionals do this project for us. And I'm really excited. It's fast, it's efficient, it's relative. Well, it's not cheap, but it's cheaper than if I did it. And so what we did is we're right now about 2/3 the way through calling 6,500 what I say priority members. These are women who have done surveys 1 through 4 and have not returned survey 5. So a priority, that's the wrong word, but they're high targeted. And so the preliminary results, which this is the first time I mentioned, but it seems like we might be getting around 8% where the phoner actually talked to a teacher, a CTS member, they were retired or what, administrator, and will they fill out that survey that I'm sending them that for the 4th time and send it in? I'm not sure, but at least we were able to verify a few quick questions and find out that they are indeed there, and they still want to stay part of this. They didn't refuse. They didn't hang up on us and say, yeah, that's done. So that's the end of my section. And I should have said at the beginning, we could do questions at any way you want to do them. If there's something specific I've talked about so far, we want to talk about it, or we could just go ahead over and let Jim present on the biospecimen project and take all questions at the end. But either which way, thank you for this part.
Thank you, Rich. I don't have anyone in line, so if Jim's ready, and Jim, while you're getting ready, are there any members of the system out in the audience that participate in this? Just Maggie? Oh, Paula too, and Loretta. So there's 4 of us.
Yes.
I'm one of those people that moved and didn't fill out the 5th study. But I'm going to, because I found it.
I was going to say, I have a copy for you.
Go ahead, Jim.
Excellent, thank you. And thank you individually and collectively for having us today. It's a real pleasure to give you an update on what we've been doing. So as Rich said, I'll talk about a new project which we're very excited about, and some of you might have heard about already. So this is what I'll talk about over the next few minutes. Why we launched this project, what we're doing, how the participants are helping us get this done, and ways we're trying to help them do that. And then I'll end with some of the things that the participants are telling us about their experience. So first, a disclosure. As Rich said, I'm new to the California Teachers Study, and I once was a government scientist. Got my PhD in epidemiology in '98, and then I worked in the National Institutes of Health, the National Cancer Institute in Washington, D.C., for about 11 years. And there was an in-house research group there that had a particular mission. It was quite fun, quite enjoyable, quite informative. But in 2009, I wanted to see if I could make it on the outside, so to speak. And the 2 key things that drew me to City of Hope were, 1, the opportunity to work with Leslie Bernstein, and 2, the opportunity to be part of this California Teacher Study team.
Right on.
And I am very pleased to have made that decision. And incidentally, my wife is also an epidemiologist. We met at NCI and both came out here and couldn't be happier.
Great.
So that said, the research we're doing has changed substantially since the time I got my PhD. It increasingly requires biospecimens, blood samples, saliva specimens, to understand more about what causes disease. For all of CTS's successes, and I'm going to use that acronym to refer to the study, it has a relatively small biobank. And so we knew the moment I got in California, we needed to increase the group of participants who would donate a biospecimen for research so we could do some of this cutting edge stuff. And that was the focus of this grant from NCI. Our goal is to collect a new blood sample or saliva sample from 21,700 current study participants and put those in the biobank. On the bottom right is a picture of the lab in Maryland. Those aren't our freezers, but ours look just like that. And that's where the blood and saliva is going. That's where it's kept safe. What's neat about this project is, even though what Rich said is correct, grant funding is harder than ever right now, this one was so compelling that 2 of the National Institutes of Health institutes, it's made up of about 10 different institutes, but 2 different ones said this is worthwhile and we're going to co-fund it. And that doesn't happen often. The Cancer Institute and the Institute of Environmental Health Sciences. So we're very pleased to have both of them supporting us. So why do we need new biospecimens? On the one hand, this is obvious that we've known forever that cancer and most diseases are caused by the combination of genes and lifestyle and environment. But we haven't always been able to measure those things, particularly on the genetic side, particularly on the biomarker side. We now have new tools that can measure those things. And that's why we wanted to get these biospecimens, get them in the bank. Here's some types of questions that we'll be able to ask at the end of this project and answer, I hope. So if we measure circulating levels of hormones in postmenopausal women, circulating estrogen levels, circulating testosterone levels, can that help us predict who's at higher risk of developing breast cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer? Can we add information about a person's genetic markers to things that already give us a good idea of who's at high risk? Things like the Gale model. If we add information about biomarkers, can we predict events even better? We want to know what types of genetic variation, the normal variation between individuals, what types of that variation interact with known risk factors, smoking, physical inactivity, diet, things like that. If we take a blood sample, can we measure cells in the blood that tell us whether that cancer patient is likely to recur or have a good outcome? And can we discover new blood-based biomarkers? That's the holy grail. That's what we're looking for. Can we develop new tools to detect cancer earlier, improve outcomes? Here's the overall protocol. We've got 3 of the sites that have active collection teams. Cancer Prevention Institute of California in the Bay Area, City of Hope down south, and UC Irvine. Rich's group is handling much of the data for us. And generally, we're going to identify a subset of about 40,000 participants, assign them to the site based on where they live. So the northern site gets the northern half of participants. Each site is going to recruit its participants. They're going to send out a phlebotomist to collect a blood sample. We're going to collect those samples, get them to FedEx in the afternoon, and get them to Maryland in the morning so they can be put in the freezer. And incidentally, it's about 1:40 right now. We've collected 2 samples. I looked at where our team is right now. We've got 2 samples that were set to be collected at 1 o'clock today. So they're probably on their way to FedEx. They're going to be in the air in a couple hours in the lab tomorrow morning. As much as this requires a scientific underpinning, much of the day-to-day stuff is logistics, right? I've got 9 phlebotomists collecting, on average, 20 to 25 blood samples per day. And each sample is 3 different tubes that's got to be kept cold and put in a specific shipper and dropped off at FedEx. It's all got to work. It's all got to work. We ship them to Maryland Monday to Friday. What we collect today is processed tomorrow and in the freezer by tomorrow afternoon. And the time zone works in our favor because we can have stuff arrive early on and they can get an early start. And it's actually worked out just great. It's ironic that the lab we're sending it to is about 4 miles from where I used to live back there. So things come full circle. We started last July. We're going to go through August of 2016. The innovation is not just on the biomarker side, but new technologies, which we can all think of, it's also made it much easier to do and manage these types of studies. And so it's given us new ways to collect, manage, store, and use these data. What we've done, and I think we're the first group to ever do this is the first cohort to take this approach. We've leveraged a CRM, a customer relationship management system, and that's widely used in sales and marketing, sort of the business side, to manage all the interactions you have with customers and clients. We worked with Salesforce.com based in the Bay Area and said, you know what, we can take that same underlying system, tweak it, make sure we've got all the protections in there, and use it to manage the data collection. And as you see on the slide here, we found it to be more efficient. It's even safer than our previous approaches, which were safe in and of themselves, and it's much faster. So we like it. Here's a little schematic of what happens. That's Martha, one of our phlebotomists there. A custom website tracks all of our activities, all the information in one spot. When that 1 o'clock appointment was made a few days ago, it automatically gets sent to a custom mobile app that we have on a tablet. We built this thing from scratch. The purpose of the app is to make that appointment go smoothly. It scans informed consent forms. It scans barcodes on the tubes of blood that are collected. There's a quick little questionnaire that the participants can go through on the mobile app pretty quickly, and it scans the FedEx tracking number. All that information is sent right back to the study website, and I can see it in real time. I could look right now and tell you all the details about the samples that were collected at 1 o'clock. That makes it much easier to do our job. It gives us complete data. And because we've automated that process, it lets us focus on the more important things, like better ways to interact with the participants, new things, new approaches we're going to use with the samples. And at 11 o'clock each night, the manifest, the list of samples that are in the air, gets sent over to the lab. So the lab wakes up, they're ready to go. Sure.
Participants reacting to getting a blood or to get those saliva sample. I mean, are most members just amenable to that of the study, or I'm just kind of curious because I would imagine for some folks, especially, they just might be a little worried about the security, and it's your blood, and where's it going to go? And so, have you had any negative reactions to it, or?
We've had a whole range of reactions. Can I answer generally and then come back with some of the quotes? So as you can imagine, we've seen some people who love it, say, yes, sign me up, whatever you need. Some people who need a little convincing and who have good questions of us, and they rightly want us to explain some of the details. And others who say, this is not for me, and just don't bother me again with a request like that. I'll show you some of the quotes. But each of those things, each of those items you mentioned, was something that we thought long and hard about and was a key factor in us planning this study and the specific steps. Because that's the detail. That's the type of detail that makes or breaks a project like this. The questionnaire that we use during the blood draw is all on the tablet, and that makes it more efficient on multiple levels compared with some of the ways that these studies used to do things. There's still a time and a place for the paper questionnaires, but this automatic questionnaire on the tablet, which we can customize to each person based on what she's already told us as part of being in the study, means that we can get informed consent from the participant, explain the study to her, draw the blood, complete the questionnaire, scan the tubes, and be done in 20 minutes. So that makes it efficient for the participants. We don't waste any of their time, we don't waste ours, and we can all get on with other things in our lives. Hinting at your question, Sharon, privacy and confidentiality is our #1 priority. It always has been, and it is even more important now for reasons we can all, I'm sure, recognize. We try to protect these data in multiple ways. We strictly control how we use the data, who sees it. Obviously, we never sell it. We never give it away. We've built in protections in all of this new project that make sure that the data that our phlebotomists need are safe, secure, private. They're not going to get in anyone else's hands. They're not going to get lost along the way. And in general, we only use the identifying information for study-related purposes. And even things like sending a tube of blood to the lab in Maryland, all the lab receives is a tube of blood with an ID number. And we know what that ID number means, but they couldn't do anything with it. So there's no way that the lab or the FedEx people would ever know who that tube of blood came from. No way they'd be able to trace it back. We control all that stuff. These are essential things. So this is what some of the things are saying, some of the participants. Overall, it's been an easy study to participate in, and anything I can do to support healthy teachers, I'm in. It's an example of the easy participants there. Today, I participated in CTS home visit for the blood specimen procedure. It was easy, fun, and quick. To be honest, we were a little bit surprised that all the appointments were going that quickly, yeah. You know, the mobile app is, it's nice, and we hear that more than I thought we would. I thought it would just be sort of routinely, but it's an enjoyable experience. Martha is our phlebotomist. She was awesome. Having come to the home was convenient. Blood draw was easy. Study's been a pleasant experience, helped me focus on leading a healthy lifestyle. Again, when we have chances to interact with the participants, we can kind of nudge them, remind them of things. And everything with today's blood draw went very well. Michelle is an excellent phlebotomist. She explained the procedure, answered all my questions, and found my vein with ease. Well done. So part of this is, yeah, you know, and we train our phlebotomists so that they can answer all those questions when they're on the phone with participants, when they're in the participant's home or at their school. And we need to know these things backwards and forward. If anything, my team was like a bunch of racehorses. They thought I was holding them back because we wanted to make sure. I said, I don't want you to be surprised when you go out there. We get one chance to interact with these participants, and we're going to do it right. So all that training paid off, and they're a very competent group. So future plans, and this is my last slide. Our goal once we assemble the biobank is to use these data for as much innovative and novel research as we can. On the whole, studies like this are underutilized. Now, the teacher study has a couple of advantages that Rich hinted at that will allow us to use it a little more than other studies do, but once we get it in, then the goal is use it for good research. The way we're using the technology here is an example of where I think we can lead the field in transition to some more modern study methodology. And we are going to prepare for some what we call next generation studies. Expectations of participants have changed in the last 20 years, and we need to respond to that. We need to be agile enough to make it a good experience for everyone involved. So with that, I'll end and welcome any questions you have.
One other question about, so in terms of the participants in the study, because I saw some, I'm a teacher and I'm not part of the study, so I was just kind of curious what the, have you stopped accepting people into the study, or is there a pathway to try and access younger teachers, or what's, I see this illusion, I guess I'm just wondering, with the pool of teachers you have right now,
It's a great question.
who are they, and are you going to add more to the study?
For the design, the scientific model of these kinds of studies, it's written in stone that the only people that continue on the study are the ones that start in the study. That's a fundamental design. But some of you may remember we presented, Dennis Deepman, my boss, and I came and presented 5-ish years ago talking about Teacher Study 2. On that note, there's a whole lot of potential behind it and a whole lot of challenges to do that, but that would be the place where we would hopefully start recruitment in another phased type of collection, doing some of the more technologically advanced approaches, maybe not doing paper, maybe requiring the next study to have people that are savvy to use forms-only processing. Jim hinted, you know, we've done some web-ish forms and online surveys, the newsletter deal, and we have this Qualtrics site. But the problem is, even in the perfect world, we're never going to get to a significant number of our members who are just not going to do web-ish surveys. And therein, you know, if you dichotomizes the cohort. So we have, it's a great question. We can't have you join today, Sharon, but we're hoping we'll have something. We know where to find you, yeah. And
but I would say that I know for me, like I have apps for everything on my phone, you know, and so I think there is, I think now there is more kind of movement towards, I do everything on my phone. I check into my hotel on my phone, and I think there's, you know, a movement. There's definitely a cadre of people who are more into that, you know, more web-based. I love, you know, taking SurveyMonkey and things like that, you know, just really quick and easy ways. And I think technology makes it fast and easy to participate versus having to, you know, write something out and mail it, snail mail, so.
Yeah. If I can follow that up with just 3 observations. Scientifically, the time is right to launch sort of the California Teacher Study 2 cohort that focuses on some questions that begin earlier in life. There's a desperate need for that, and we've talked about it, and we're going to continue to make it a priority. Second, as you said, technology makes it easier to get those cohorts up and running and to maintain them. It raises a whole bunch of new questions, but that's the fun part. And then the third thing, and this is where I hope this can be the start of a continued discussion with you and the board and the group about how to do this. None of us faces a problem of not getting information, right? The real challenge is how can we sort through what's important. So if we're going to do this, we need to be very wise and efficient about how we reach potential participants the right way the first time, give them the information they need. Because the costs of missing an opportunity are high, and the costs of wasting an opportunity are high. So that's where, if we can start this discussion about how to plan that over the next year, 2, 3 years, and get it up and running, there's a whole bunch of scientific cool stuff we could do at the back end.
I like hearing that.
Yeah.
Alrighty, are there any other questions? Rich, Jim, thank you very much. I'll get my survey in, hopefully this weekend, because I know where it is now. Really appreciate it. Love hearing stuff about the California teacher study. Thanks. Alrighty, reminder for those of us on the dais to please get your choices in for committee preferences in so that Harry and Sharon can take a look at that. And you could probably leave them here, and Jack, you can get those sent off to Harry if you would.
Just right, so we bring it back in June just as a composite after they've kind of looked everything over, and then, and really in the meeting in July is when they take effect.
Alrighty, thank you. Moving on to item number 6.
Calendar.
You can see, oh, I've got to get through the charters.
Yeah, this was the same calendar that we proposed before with 2 changes that you suggested during the last
Thank you,
meeting.
Jack.
One was a scheduling conflict in December, and then there was a general consensus. People didn't like meeting on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so on the June 15 meeting, we moved those dates.
And those are on TRB 49, and they are for action. So if I get someone to move approval of the 2 dates, we can add them to our calendar. Tom has moved. Sharon is second. Is there any further discussion on these 2 dates or groups of dates? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Any abstentions?
Okay, we'll put
Jack,
that up on the
we'll
web
get
then
those
as
in
your
there.
calendar for next year.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
All right, Ed, you're up for item number 7.
Sure, and you have Jamie, why don't you come on up? I'm going to introduce her in a second, but this is actually the time that we are the board will award the contract for the Pension 2 record keeper. We did a request for proposal, got some proposals in, had some interviews with those who are qualified to be interviewed, did some site visits, and after a lot of deliberation, a lot of checking with existing clients, looking at the 2 proposals that we evaluated in detail, we are recommending that the board award the contract to ING US Retirement Systems, which will soon be Voya. It'll be rebranded as Voya in the next few months. It would be a contract for 8 years with 2 one-year extensions. The cost that ING would be charging participants would be 18 basis points, which is a reduction from the 25 basis points it's currently being charged. When we did the evaluation of the proposals, what we were particularly impressed with a variety of things that ING had to offer, one of which was a very good, very smooth transition from existing clients, which is obviously of considerable importance to us if we're moving the record keeping from one firm to another, but also just in terms of the way that they operate with respect to their clients in terms of being very sensitive to the identity of the client. And that's very important to us because of our plan being part of the retirement system. We want to make sure that the participants recognize that Pension 2 is a CalSTRS product. It would be reflected in the materials they get, in the website they get, in the statements that they get. And the statements will have information such as what the value of their benefit is on a monthly basis, given the account balance that they would get, assuming that they earn the rate of return that their assets provide. So it would provide some incredibly valuable information for people to do retirement planning. So we felt that given all of that, given the comments that we got from their existing clients and other retirement systems who work very closely with them and are very satisfied with it. Given, just even a relatively small point when we met with them back in Connecticut, that the culture of the organization was very similar to CalSTRS, very much into sustainability. Their building was LEED certified, all those good things. They have recycling all over the place like we do. Just the kind of thing, it just felt really good, and we had just a very good rapport with the staff. And with Jamie in particular, Jamie Ohl is the president of the tax-exempt markets for ING. And she came out here just for this moment, and I want to make sure that she had an opportunity to say a few words and ask whatever questions you might have of her. But in the end, the staff does recommend awarding the contract to ING. So, Jamie, if you want to say a couple words and make sure you press the button there.
Welcome to CalSTRS.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Jack. ING, on behalf of ING, we're very excited and honored to partner with the largest teacher pension retirement fund in the world. This is an incredible honor. We have a long and successful history of working with educators. Ed mentioned that the division I run at ING is the tax-exempt division, which is the single largest division in the organization. And our focus is on solely on bringing retirement to those in public service. So it's an honor for us to have this opportunity. And as Ed mentioned, we really do believe that it should be your program. So we look forward to the opportunity to help brand it as Pension 2 and as part of the overall CalSTRS pension program that you offer. The gentleman who spoke about the retirees, it's critical and it's very important personally to me. My dad is a retired teacher, so we recognize and believe that all components of the program are important, and we think this will give us an opportunity to help you grow the program throughout California. So we look forward to this as an incredible opportunity. And I think, Sharon, you mentioned earlier about mobile devices. One of the things that we also do is think about how we engage those employees, those teachers, those participants. And we have a very focused agenda. We were one of the first to actually bring it to a fully transactional mobile site, which we have available on through an app that is available through Android and iPhone devices. So we are consistently looking for ways to help people have a secure financial retirement. And with that, I will turn it back over to Ed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just sort of an opportunity if any of the board has any questions, but as I said, we do recommend awarding the contract.
Sharon?
First, I want to thank you for taking the effort to come all the way out here for this moment. So we appreciate that. I was wondering if you, do you have other contracts with I'm trying to think how to say this. Are you doing this kind of work for other funds or entities in California? Like this kind of, I'm trying to articulate.
There's one across the river.
Oh, okay. the fund that shall not be named. Okay. Okay, that was what I was trying to get at. Just other examples of other vendors that, or other institutional investors. I guess.
They also have the San Bernardino County retirement system, and in fact, the person who would be our relationship manager is a relationship manager for San Bernardino, and we talked with them in great detail, and they were very happy with the services they get.
Okay.
And two of the larger public pension plans, actually, we checked with were Colorado and Ohio, which are often benchmarking reference points for us.
Investors was the phrase I was looking for, and I just couldn't retrieve it. So that's helpful to know. And then I just wanted to, and I don't know if this is a question necessarily for you, but the implications of the transition from TI-CREF, I believe next year is when the contract. Oh, is it this year? Is it this summer?
We would actually initiate the transition now.
Okay.
We would make the transition hopefully sometime in the late summer, early fall. And so we'll start in that process very soon.
We gave
wonder
you
if you
that
could
gap
speak to
period
that.
just to, in case there were any contingencies. That's the only purpose of the longer time frame, but we would move now.
But what is, I guess I'm just wondering, what does that look like to kind of move from one vendor to another in terms of branding and you know, teachers' sort of familiarity with, oh, it's been TI-CREF and now it's ING, and then ING is changing their name, so.
Sure, right. And that, quite honestly, was an issue that we had discussed when we were back in Connecticut of making sure we didn't have, it's ING, now it's Voya. It's like, you know, they're going to, but quite honestly, and this is what really appealed to us, is Voya, ING, whatever you call it, stays way in the background. It's like you barely know that it's ING. It's CalSTRS. We will definitely notify that they are going to be, we are changing record keepers because there will be a momentary period of time where there's a blackout, hopefully as short as possible, but it'll be there. But the material that they get will all be branded as Pension 2. It will not be branded as ING. There will be something that we are going to work very closely with ING in terms of the assets that are currently in a TIA traditional account. We'll want to move over to the fixed account that ING offers, and we'll have to work. The nature of the existing contract with TI-CREF is an individual contract. We have to work with the individual participants to get that moved, and we will work to make that happen. As far as the other things, we are in the process of doing some mapping of other Vanguard funds and other things, and we'll do that at the same time, but that doesn't require any participant involvement. Okay. We just do that automatically.
So at some point, I'm assuming you'll bring back to the board kind of what the portfolio will look like with under
Well, quite honestly, part of the delegation that you gave to Jack, who sub-delegated to Chris, it provides him that authority, and so that's already been done. We can certainly communicate, and we actually
Well,
did
it'd just be
communicate
nice
the
to kind of
changes.
see.
Yeah, well,
so if
I-
you could just info
Sure.
as an informational item, so we could just see.
Yeah,
what
I think what we'll
differences
do is in benefits and services or the board,
Yeah.
however you want to do, is when the transition is completed, we will make a presentation about what it looks like and what we've got, and you'll see the website, and you'll never see ING or Voya, branding in there and stuff, and you'll see what the thing looks like from a participant standpoint. I think you'll be impressed with how it looks.
And I think doing it in benefits and services seems,
Sure.
seems appropriate.
Yeah.
And I have to say, to me, as I read through the materials, to me that was one of the biggest selling points, because I know the costs in terms of the contract and the and the basis points was similar, but to me, the fact that we can brand it as a CalSTRS vehicle, I think that's a real plus for us, for our members too, because I know our members have a lot of trust in CalSTRS, and so for supplemental retirement.
Yeah, and we had a difficult time at times where people didn't understand that it was our program, so we're really pleased that this will be able to happen now.
Quick questions. Do you have offices in California to service people?
We do.
You do? Okay.
Throughout California.
Throughout California. And why the name change? Just out of curiosity?
The name change is a result of, we were previously owned by the Dutch ING. We separated from them and went public last May, so we are an independent public company as of today. So ING was their name, and we have a new name as a new independent public company.
You used to have those cute ads, though, with the ING stuff.
Well, we still have the bench.
No, you still got
So
the bench.
you'll still see the
But it's
bench.
not going to work as well if it just says "yeah" on the back.
That's an excellent point.
Note to self.
That was good, Rich. All right, any other questions? Thank you, Jamie, for coming all this way to see us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's an honor to be part of this program.
Thank you.
This is an action item, by the
Oh,
way.
that's right. It's
Minor
recommend to authorize staff to enter into an 8-year contract with 2 one-year options to extend the contract, and that would be at a cost of 18 basis points. I had the recommendation all ready to go, honest Ed. So I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Sharon has moved. Rich has seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I just want to ask a question.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Is the 8-year contract, is that what we had with
No, it's the kind of thing, like, we always have termination clauses to it, but quite honestly, it's such an involved process that we think the longer the better, and it helps keeps the price down.
So that was kind of the committee's decision to sort of say,
Yes.
we'll mitigate
We felt
costs.
it was a prudent thing to do from a business standpoint.
Okay.
Ready? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All righty, thank you very much.